Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to do things a little bit different. We're going to go over the New Year's post that was posted on the official Play Online website, and we're going to go over the adventuring survey for Final Fantasy XI that was surveyed over overseas and JP communities. And I think there's some good news coming out of both of them. Very big news, so let's jump in. The post starts off with essentially them just wishing everybody a happy New Year's from the 11 team. Uh, and then they decide, let's list some major updates of this past year. The replacement of game servers is what kicks it off, which is phenomenal. It keeps the longevity of the game going, showing that Square Enix is willing to put the time and effort to maintain the servers and keep the game going. Gamepad config updates. The accessibility for this one is great. Gives people who play on the gamepad more fine-tuned controllings over the configuration of their controls. Perfect. There's an icon update to show you, hey, I can take these rare EX items and send them to other characters on my account as long as they are within the same POL account. It all works out. If you're unsure what that is, it is this little blue icon up here, and that allows you to know, hey, just like this one's rare exclusive, I can also send it to my other characters within the Play Online account. Then they talk about the launch of the Vanabout, which are just community-driven events. They're okay. They have some lock styles that was introduced through them. Not bad. The addition of the level 9 Besieged. The level 9 Besieges are the baseline level 99 Besieges, which, revitalize old content. That leaves the door open for other older content to now be revitalized. We have high level BCNMs. We now have high level Besieged, essentially. What else could they make high level? Campaign battles, maybe? I don't know. We'll find out. Addition to the new Master Trial content, for the players who love the harder challenge of the Master Trials, they now have more of that content to enjoy. Perfect. Great. These are all very good major updates that help push the game forward. So they then go in and talk about more work that they need to do on the back end and for supporting other content. Some of that includes upgrading the game servers some more. As we all know, it's running on the PS2 dev kit. They are while the PS2 and the Xbox 360 no longer are supported. You cannot access the game through a PS2 or Xbox 360 anymore. They're still trying to keep pushing the game forward, hopefully detangling some of that spaghetti code of Final Fantasy XI, as a lot of older games have that problem before code management became popular and are able to hopefully take it and push the game forward a little bit. Maybe upgrade some things here and there, introduce some more quality of life features that could help. Item level support for Besiege. Let's go from that base 99 to 119, maybe even 109 first, and then go to the 126 to the 130 plus, and then see how we go from there. This would allow people who are just returning to the game, maybe they saw Prish in the new raid and they decided to check it out, and they're just now hitting that 99. They can partake in Besieged and feel like they're doing something versus getting to 99, seeing what this Besieged is all about, and just obliterating it because they're level 75 mobs. It's a net positive regardless. And then the ability to change your character's race. This was first announced on an Amon Live. If you're not sure what an Amon Live is, it's a Japanese exclusive live stream done on the official Final Fantasy XI account over on YouTube. And that just goes over a lot of this information in more detail with Fuji-P and the team. They also announced like merchandising and other Japanese exclusive events. If you'd like to check it out, sometimes you can catch them still on YouTube. I believe they do delist them after a while. and from there, uh, you can kind of see some Japanese exclusive stuff. The live stream is fully in Japanese. There, occasionally you can catch good subtitles of English, but 9 times out of 10, it's only in Japanese. Move. One last note on the Amon Live. I would like for them to allow Sai Seeker and Okiomi to do Amon Lives for the North American and European communities. So we can kind of have the same level of detail of the information versus just having these posts and forum posts to read, which do give us some of the insight, but I feel like we lose a lot of the detailed information coming from it. It would be great as it's just once a month. I know we have Prime for Adventure, and Prime for Adventure is every other month, give or take. It would just kind of help the community that's already there who would like to see that engagement. But let's move on. We also have the other non game developments, which talks about the We Are Vanadil website, which is phenomenal. A lot of great little tidbits in there about inspirations of Final Fantasy 11 and how things happened kind of behind the scenes and whatnot. Really cool. And I think they also had a lot of in-person events in Japan that is nice to see in 2024, now 2025, especially the game being 20 plus years old. They also go into the Echoes of Vanadil. As we all know, Final Fantasy 14's newest Alliance raid is in collaboration with Final Fantasy 11. Prish has made her appearance in the world of Eorzea, so Vanadil is now leaking into Eorzea. And we can kind of see a high scale or a higher resolution Prish and lower Juno, which is nice. Then the survey, we'll go into that in more detail here in a minute. Now to the big news. They're going to make expanded solo play options, which they are going to hopefully include more ways to like solo some types of BCNMs or even other quote unquote in-game activities as what it they kind of allude to in the post. So that if you are someone who likes to play solo or just want that additional challenge, you can actually attempt it or clear it as a solo player rather than being forced into a group. Now, does that mean we're going to get more areas that allow trust, or is it going to be one of those we're just going to go in as ourselves and you have to legitimately solo it, or is it going to be solo in the aspect of I also had a party of trust with me? To be determined. We'll see what happens. Very exciting. Some people don't like playing in groups. Some people don't have time to group up that day. So allowing them to still make progress by potentially earning in-game quality gear would be great. Next, they talk about grouping improvements. While I like this for newer players, I think the veteran players are kind of used to the shouts, looking for a CCOM, and seeing what their search comment says and says like, oh, this person's looking for this, who is actively seeking for a group. There is the assist channel for new players and returning players. I think opening it up as like a looking for group channel is beneficial. It kind of declutters some of the chat a little bit, but not really. It's just a whole new color of chat that's going to be on your screen versus seeing it in a yell. So we'll see what comes from that. I think it's a good thing but hopefully it gets used and it's just not something they put some time and effort into that no one ever uses. Then we go into the revitalizing content. So, just like we already said before, Besieged is getting revamped to be into that 119 plus item level. They are also trying to figure out what other type of content they could potentially revitalize. There's a Promi here, and that looks like C. We already have a high level Limbus that is level 99. Having a 119 or an item level plus Limbus would be kind of cool. Promis, I'm not sure how they could technically weave that in, but it would be interesting to see. Like I said, campaign battles I think would be a lot of fun, uh, especially if you could earn capacity points or even exemplar points through them. I think that'd be a lot of fun. It would help a lot of people get those capacity points if they're struggling or if they're a solo player, or get their exemplar points if, again, they're a solo player or they're just struggling to find groups on their server. Um, we then go on to them stating they don't have exact timelines or specifications for any of this. They need to finalize everything, and then we'll get more information. They did state they're gonna give us additional automaton attachment and blue maze sets uh, as they're gonna make that a priority. What that means is still TBD. We don't know. I'm curious as to what automaton attachments are gonna come. I would like to see maybe automaton sets to where kind of how we have the gear sets in the game right now. Maybe have like an automaton set. Same with the blue mage. Magic sets, like you could have blue mage set 1 through 5, automaton set 1 through 5. So if you have like a DPS set, a tank set, a healing set, you could easily swap those out when you're out of combat and be able to change on the fly. I know blue mage has a cooldown on when they can do it, but on or when their spells come back, I should say. So we will just have to stay tuned for more details. And that's pretty much it. Signs off from Fuji-P. He goes into some of the New Year's events and whatnot that are the same kind of every year. So that is it for the New Year's letter. So let's kick over to the Adventure Survey. So they kind of start this off by saying, when did you most recently stop playing Final Fantasy XI? You can see there's a lot of people who answered currently playing, but there's also a very, very small number, specifically in Japan, that stopped playing before the launch of the expansions. Uh, it looks like a lot of people actually stopped playing during the Feration's resurgence, so 2020 onward, which is a little surprising because I would think a lot of people would probably have stopped during the Abyssy area because that's when a lot of people kind of looked down on that era of Final Fantasy 11. But moving on, how often do you log into Final Fantasy 11? You can see a good chunk is almost daily, with 4 to 5 times a week being on there. Uh, a surprising metric is this light or this purplish, which I believe is I haven't logged in for the past year. 15%. It's kind of even between overseas and Japan. 15.5% for overseas, 14.8% for Japan. Kind of surprising, especially with how high the almost daily is. Um, the 2 to 3 times a week is about even, and then the 4 to 5 times per week is pretty close. So pretty close numbers in this aspect. And then we get into how many hours do you play Final Fantasy 11 average each day. This is where it kind of separates the overseas players and the Japanese players. So the Japanese players have a pretty good split going on right here. Um, and the overseas players are pretty much, we're going to play 4 plus hours to three plus hours to 2 plus hours. Everything else is very minimal. It seems like Japan's more, it's almost an even 25, 25, 25 with the little bit sprinkled in here for the sub 1 hour mark. And then, which of the following best describes how you play Final Fantasy 11? Looks like a lot of people solo in Japan, which I play on Odin, which is the quote unquote unofficial Japanese server. I've played on Odin essentially the whole time I've played Final Fantasy 11. It's always been very Japanese heavy in terms of the population. So it does kind of surprise me how many people they play solo uh, on the Japan side, because I always see Japanese people in groups or looking for party. And then on the North American side, or excuse me, the overseas side, it is pretty close. 48% say they would rather play in groups, whether with friends, link shell, what have you. Uh, but and or I'm sorry, a set group of people, and then the 7% is kind of high for I recruit new party members each time. I'd feel, especially with how tight knit a lot of the link shells are on several servers, from what I've seen through forum posts and whatnot. And then a 45%, I would rather play solo, or I usually play solo. That could be due to time constraints or what have you. But with Japan being 53% playing solo, 44% playing with a set group of people, and only 2% recruit new party members each time, that's, you know, pretty close. Let's move on. How satisfied with you are in the current state of 11? This one is kind of not really surprising. It's just people saying, "Hey, I'm satisfied." We're about even. It looks like overseas is at 42.8 at just a satisfied. Japan is at 47.5%. You know, not not bad. They're happy with the current state of the game. Uh, 13% overseas is very satisfied. They like how the game is now. 10.4% in Japan is very satisfied. They really like how the game is now. Neutral, 27% overseas, 21.7% in Japan. And then dissatisfied is pretty close, 12.6 in overseas, 4.7 in Japan. And then very dissatisfied is also very close at 4.6 overseas and 5.7 in Japan. It looks like when they did talk about why people are putting this putting their answers, they read comments that we noticed that many of them wanted us to expand the quality and breadth of the solo play activities, and they wanted us to do away with entry restrictions based on the number of people for some in-game content. So that could be where their solo experience is coming from, especially when the commonly used words were solo play, game content, and time. So, and then multiple references to sortie, with many respondents expressing concerns that the content had become too fixated on certain jobs and types of party members. So, very much so. This is the meta of how to play sortie. We need these jobs. We've seen that before in the past with other content. Not too surprising. People figure out the meta. Every job could be taken realistically in Final Fantasy 11. It's just some might not pull as much weight as the others. It is what it is. That's just how balancing has worked in Final Fantasy 11. Moving on, the campaign rewards. Most people are satisfied or neutral. Not real surprising. A lot of it's just lock style or pop items or quality of life things. Not too bad. Monthly campaigns, same thing. Most people are neutral or satisfied. Nothing too crazy. The campaigns are like capacity point bonuses, experience point bonuses, uh, dark matter events, things like that. So these are kind of where we're going to get into the nitty gritty of the bulk of the pretty neat information of please select up to 3 items you would especially like to see in the future version updates. So you can see number one is job balance and adjustments. Number two is adjustments to existing content. Then three, additional battle content, character development, job master, master levels, monthly campaigns, login campaign rewards, record of eminence, additional quests and scenarios, or none of the above. As you can see, number 8 for additional quests and scenarios, that could be anywhere from new expansion, new storylines. We just got the Verations Resurgence wrapped up, so they could put out new content. Who knows? Then number 2, being fairly high in Japan, not as high overseas, is the adjustments to existing content. So Besieged, campaign battles, Promies, Sea, who knows? Uh, Additional battle content. I would take that as new battle content is what people want to see. So just new content in general. Um, Not surprising, higher overseas versus in Japan. Uh, but it seems like the additional scenarios and quests is what both overseas and Japan kind of agree on. So I'll be curious to see what they do with that one. So here's some of the stuff they picked up from the comments, which implement new stories and quests to help provide additional motivation for playing the game, help get people more excited to keep playing versus let's just be on that gear treadmill or that EXP grind treadmill. New areas to explore. That one is a little harder to see with given how little the development team is. Who knows if they have an art team, if they do, how big it is, coming up with a whole new area or new areas would be kind of a stretch. Would be nice to see, but kind of a stretch. Um, Content that can be played solo, so it helps new players or returning players kind of have some motivation to they can jump in and they don't feel behind because they can't find a group. Understandable. Quality of life, accessibility. Keep going. Keep pushing that forward. Um, and then create more stories with a more in-depth look to the game's lore. Yeah, I mean, just give us more lore. We just want to know more. Cool. That sounds great. The Crystal War we already went through. Um, we could go further back than that. The Crystal War is a very recent thing. It 40 years. We could go back even further. Let's see before all that. Let's see more of what's happening. Um, then we have the job balance adjustments, which points out some jobs are super overpowered, overtuned, and then you have other jobs that are grossly undertuned, like Ninja, Beastmaster, and Ranger, receive a buff. Even though not too incredibly long ago, Beastmaster did receive a buff, but it seems like from the power aspect, I haven't played Beastmaster in a while, so the power aspect of it could be lacking when you're looking at other jobs that are hitting that damage cap a lot easier. Please replace the abilities that are not really used anymore for more useful abilities instead. I like this idea. Would love to know more information on this. Like, what abilities do are these people saying? Oh, well, this isn't really used anymore. I would rather see this instead. I'm trying to think of what like scavenge maybe for rangers. I'm not really sure what abilities could be deemed useless or not as useful in common era of Final Fantasy 11 as it used to be. Um, but let's keep going. The gameplay itself has not received any changes in quite some time. I would like to see new elements added to it. I can kind of see where this is going. Let maybe spice up the gameplay a little bit. It is a very dated game, being 20 plus years old. It's tab target. You auto attack, auto attack, auto attack. Oh, I have TP. Use my ability or use my weapon skill. Use abilities here and there to buff yourself, allies, what have you, caster spells. Cool. Um, that is going to be really tied back into the infrastructure and the code base. They need to do a lot of that back end work to push the game forward so they can implement those quality of life changes to get those good gameplay changes in that could help revitalize the game. Please make it to where we can more easily access blue magic and puppet sets. That was already covered in the post that kind of what I said. Let's have multiple sets of attachments that we can just do a quick equip on. Same with blue magic sets. I know there's an AoE set, like AoE farming set. There's a you know set for single target. Let's just be able to quickly swap between those. Let's move on to the battle comment or the battle content. Someone said there's nothing, or they add enough to people say there's nothing left to do in the game, so please add new content to help players return. That could be I have every single relic, I have every single uh, content completed, I have best in slot for everything that I play, probably on multiple characters. I have everything upgraded, I'm geared to the teeth. I don't have anything left to do. Please give us more content. I'm sure they will. That's kind of how Master Trials and these new BCNMs come in to play. They put out these content. They put out this content just because it. I would imagine it's a little easier to put out than putting out something like Dynamis D. Please add high level content outside of Master Trials that serve as a test to the player's skill. I agree. We need more things like how Absolute Virtue was back in the day, how some of these H&Ms were. Put in the high level creatures and the open world content that makes people really push their skills. I agree. That's good content. I think it'd be easy to do. Some of these outdated, using the term outdated kind of loosely, H&Ms. I know we have the spawned um Unity Unity NMs, but just crank up the difficulty to like 140s to some of these H&Ms. Scale them up to 200. Let's just see. Let's push it. See how high we can crank that difficulty up and get people out there camping H&Ms again. Please add new battle content that can easily be taken down solo or with smaller parties. I agree. I think that helps the people who don't have enough time to play anymore or people who have a very small group of friends they like to do things with. Now, I don't necessarily think that should be This says easily. I think it should be easy enough to where you can still accomplish it. Maybe in the first couple tries, to where after you kind of learn what the monster is going to do, or with maybe the first or second try with a small group. I think if you're able to cheese the content, people aren't going to like that either. Make it at least have some type of challenge to it, to where once you learn how the fight's going to go, you can accomplish it. Please add battle content that can be taken on by a large number of players. Alliances. We had that with uh, Dynamis D. Omen technically can do it. It gets harder as you add more players. So a lot of people take smaller groups in there so they can, have the easier route and farm it easier. Uh, but yeah, I think with the dwindling player base, having large scale content like alliance based content is a bit on the harder side, especially if you play on a not as populated server. I'm positive it can still be done on a less populated server. I just don't think it's going to be as easy of time if you play on a higher populated server. Then let's see, moving on to the character development. Please add new character development options in order to help motivate players to return to the game. I'd be curious as to what that would mean. Is it new gear upgrades, new master level type system? I mean, we just got master levels, and a lot of people didn't like how long it took to hit that cap at master level. So, and then we kind of see here the experience point penalty for master levels is too strict. So please relax it somewhat. You can kind of see people weren't really too happy with the master level system and how hard it scaled. This was supposed to be the treadmill. They knew people had max level relics and or Rimas already. They knew that. So how do we give people this treadmill to keep playing the game? And it was master level. And it was supposed to be punishing when you died. It was supposed to be, punishing on how long it took. It does seem that it's still somewhat too punishing for people, and I'll be curious as to what they do in the future. Please speed up the job master growth rate and change the gifts that are offered. I think some of the gifts are great. I think some of them are a little lackluster. They do this already, where they do change what is provided, especially in the merit point system and in the job points. So I can see what they're saying. Let me master my job quickly, because I now have to worry about um, or master levels after that. Because if you have, to me personally, if you're mastered on your warrior, but you're master level 1, you're not really mastered. It could be also viewed as kind of the Guild Wars 2 system, to where, yeah, you're at max level, but you're still gaining those levels, and it's just kind of additional bonuses. It could also be viewed that way. Um, I think the job the the job master system is fine as is. I don't really agree with speeding it up, as you get job points, you get more job points and capacity points. So the initial grind seems a little poor in aspects of how much you're getting, um, especially if you do that solo. But once you start getting some of your points in and you start allotting and unlocking those gifts, the you start earning more and more capacity points. One, you're getting stronger. Two, you're getting bonuses from the gifts. Uh, that one's kind of up in the air. I'll be curious as to what they do with it. Please create a new exemplar points based campaign and offer other character development campaigns on a permanent basis. I agree with this. Me personally, I think they should drop the experience points campaign. I don't know if they have a merit point campaign, but if they do, I would drop that one as well. Merits and EXP are so easy to come by nowadays. It's really your capacity points and exemplar points that people care about. Keep the capacity point one, add an exemplar point one, let these people just grind away. I mean, these campaigns don't come up but every few months. That would be a great way to see a spike in players logging in, especially if they're like, "Oh, I can log in for these 2 weeks and get triple exemplar points." That would see populations increase. That would see a lot of more player activity. I can see it. Let's see. And then questions for lapsed players. Which of the following would possibly convince you to return to the game? So let's just look at the highest points here. For the overseas, it says lower monthly subscription fees. I do agree with this. Final Fantasy 11, they could keep running indefinitely, specifically at how expensive it is to play this game. Playing it base is $16. Once you start adding in your Mog wardrobes and additional characters, you're looking at $20+ a month to play this game versus a game like World of Warcraft where you're playing or you're going to pay $16 a month and you have full access to the game. Yes, WoW has something like the WoW token or the cash shop to boost your characters. Final Fantasy 14 has that as well with the boosting and whatnot. And 14 has the same problem. You pay the base fee with your retainers and all your additional services that you tack on, you're getting to the same aspect. The bang for your buck to play a game, especially a 20+ year old game, isn't there. I do agree with let's lower the fee. Let's make it to where they can still run these servers, but let's not make it as high. So yeah, I would agree with this one. For the Japan audience, the Japanese audience says changes to their lifestyle. So a lot of people probably had some type of lifestyle change at home that required them to, or that would require them to happen to be able to play again. Either more free time due to work or what have you. That that one's not really on Square Enix, and they can make it a little bit more convenient to play the game, but in terms of getting more exemplar points or capacity points, making some content easier, I don't think you should be able to cheese all the content and get BIS gear. So there is some things Square Enix can do, but I think that one's a more on the player rather than on the company. On the overseas one, that one's for sure on the company rather than on the player. It is what it is. And then just some closing comments. But that was it. I hope everyone uh enjoyed this content. It is something that I don't really make often or have ever made. I've thought about making this type of content, but um I it's one of those there's not a lot of meaningful information to come out of 11. Sometimes there is, and it's a lot of that we need to see what happens. But I think this one had a lot of information that we knew was going to happen that they've kind of stated, but wanted to see if they would put their money where their mouth is, and they did. They for sure they've upgraded Besieged, so I felt more confident in making this video as I have a good feeling they're going to do it. Now, it's not going to be immediate. It's going to take time. That is the big thing. It will take time. We will just see what happens. Um, well, like I said, that's really all I have. If you like the video, please give it a like, hit that subscribe button, let you know whenever I go live. We go live on Wednesdays here on YouTube and on Twitch. Leave a comment down below on some of the things you're looking forward to or what you would like to see coming to Final Fantasy XI and some of the changes that you think the development team could make.